by Naomi Klein in her shock doctrine, or maybe, just maybe, will this very awareness of the immanent logic of today's capitalism, of where this logic is leading us, will it give rise to a slow awakening from the capitalist dogmatic dream? Perhaps the time has come to reapply to our situation Brecht's already quoted quip. What is the robbing of a bank compared to the founding of a new bank? What is the stealing of a couple of thousands of dollars for which you go to prison compared to financial speculations which deprive tens of millions of their homes and savings and are then rewarded by state help of sublime grandeur? As Alain Badiou put it succinctly, a quote, "One demands absolutely from ordinary citizens to understand that it is not possible to fill in the financial gap of the social security, but that without counting the billions, one should fill in the gap of the banks. We should seriously approve that nobody wants to nationalize a factory in trouble, but that it is evident to nationalize a bank which burned because of its speculations." End of quote. One should, I think, generalize this statement. When we are fighting AIDS, hunger, lack of water, global warming, and so on, although we recognize the urgency of these problems, there is always time to reflect, to postpone decisions. Recall how the main conclusion of the last meeting of the superpower leaders in Bali, hailed as a success. The main conclusion of this meeting was that they will meet again in 2 years to continue the talks. But with the financial meltdown, the urgency to act was unconditional. A sum beyond imagination, really in the Kantian sense sublime, was immediately found. Save the endangered species, save the planet for global warming, save the AIDS patients, save the patients dying because of the lack of funds for expensive treatments, save the starving children. All this can wait a little bit, but the call "save the banks" is an unconditional imperative which demands and gets immediate action. Did you feel this? How even democracy was practically suspended. I was fascinated in the United States how basically all got instantly together. McCain, Obama, Bush, when the Congress, you remember, in the first vote, well, as I would put it as an old Stalinist, voted wrongly, you know, took the wrong decision, and they implied, like, okay, democracy, but no time for jokes here. This has to be done, unconditionally. And let us also not forget that this sublimely enormous sum was spent not for some clear, real task, but basically in order to restore confidence in the markets, to restore belief. Do we need another proof that capital is the real of our lives? The real whose demands are much more absolute than even the most pressing demands of our social and natural reality. We can all be dead because of some ecological catastrophe. There can be unrest, civil war, spread of disease, and so on. Okay, that can wait. Banks, no jokes there. That's the real. You don't negotiate there. But things are not as easy as they appear here. And this, I think, can maybe be a positive lesson of this crisis. Namely, the problem here is that in the capitalist system, welfare of the mainstream effectively depends on the thriving Wall Street. So all these populist formulas, don't help the banks, help the ordinary small businessmen, are deeply misleading. So while in the United States, Republican populists who resisted these financial measures are doing the wrong thing for the right reason. The proponents of the bailout are doing, I think, the right thing for the wrong reason. To put it in more sophisticated terms of propositional logic, the relationship between Main Street and Wall Street is a non-transitive one. While what is good for Wall Street is not necessarily good for Main Street cannot thrive if Wall Street is not doing well. And this asymmetry gives an a priori advantage to Wall Street. That is to say, it's really as if we have here kind of a secret theological logic which say, of course, we ultimately want to help ordinary people, but you cannot do it directly. If you help them directly, it will be counterproductive. The only way to help ordinary people is to help the big banks, which are the blood, the very life of the system, as they put it. And then we cannot do anything, but we can just pray, hope that the kind of a grace, miracle of the system, somehow this help that we distribute to big banks, companies, and so on, will somehow trickle down to ordinary people. So again, the problem is that insofar as we remain in capitalism, there is a truth in this defense of Wall Street. The kick at Wall Street will really hit ordinary workers. Therein resides the hard lesson of today's crisis. The flaw is immanent to the system itself. We are, I think, approaching the moment where short-term solutions will work less and less. That's, as one who is not qualified to pass high economic judgments, that's my, to put it very naively and modestly, even basic impression. That what really makes this crisis so unsettling is that these short-term solutions no longer work or even counterproductive, so that the more you try to do, the more you are confronting the basic problem, which is the system itself. So what to do? How to act here? Well, I will not answer at this point here. Come to the conference on the idea of communism this weekend in Birkbeck College. Maybe you will get some answers. But I would like to use the remaining time to change the terrain and point out another danger, which is extremely serious, I claim, which lurks in the moments of crisis, a certain ideological regression. Recently, let me begin with a general observation. Recently, the notion of toxic subjects is gaining popularity in, especially United States academia. For example, in her book, Toxic People, Lillian Glass identifies 30 types of toxic people, some with humorous labels such as the smiling, two-faced, sneaky backstabber, and so on. She provides a toxic people quiz to help readers identify which category a suspect toxic terror which falls into, and suggests 10 techniques to handle them. Direct confrontation, vicarious fantasy, calm questioning, and so on. Conceding that to some degree we are all toxic, Glass offers a toxic image inventory, enabling us to identify our own destructive behavior. In the same mode, Albert Bernstein, in his Emotional Vampires, dealing with people who drain you dry, goes a step further and directly mobilizes horror mythology, speaking directly of emotional vampires preying on us, masquerading as ordinary people. They may lurk in your office, your family, your circle of friends. Perhaps, he says, they even share your bed. Bright, talented, and charismatic, they win your trust, and then they drain you out of your energy. This topic of toxic subjects is expanding much further than immediate interpersonal relations, in a paradigmatic postmodern way. The predicate, toxic, covers a series of properties which belong to totally different domains: natural, cultural, psychological, political. A toxic subject can be an immigrant with a deadly disease who should be quarantined, a terrorist whose deadly plans should be prevented, and who belongs to Guantanamo. The empty zone exempted from the rule of law. A fundamentalist ideologist who should be silenced because he is spreading hatred. A parent, teacher, or priest who abuses and corrupts children. See Susan Forward's Toxic Parents, a detailed study of the way parents can ruin their children's lives. So what I propose here is that, in a Hegelian way of universalization, one should accomplish here the passage from predicate to subject. From the standpoint of postmodern individualist subject, is there not something toxic in the very idea of a parent, this parasitic mediator who subjects the subject to an authority in the very process of raising him or her as free and autonomous? If there is a clinical lesson about parenthood, it is that there is no clean, non-toxic parent. And one should bring this generalization, I think, to the end.